Hope that works. The audio is unmuted. All right.
So it's now time for me to call this meeting to order. It is 6:30. I want to welcome those of you that are participating in the board meeting room in person, and those of you that are now watching via stream on YouTube. We will be addressing the board tonight. It's the microphone at the podium to identify yourself. As a reminder, the link to the meeting is on the district webpage under the board of accounting, which really has something in the meeting. And so that if there is a disruption, I will pause the meeting until we do that. The meeting is on. Please announce meeting.
This meeting has been announced in accordance with the open meetings resolution and is a legally constituted meeting of the Wilson School Board of Education.
The meeting is on. From the
This meeting has been announced in accordance with the open meetings resolution and is a legally constituted meeting of by her friend, Dottie, is a senior at Valencia High School. She lives with her parents, Stephen and Alicia Booth. She has a sister at Valencia High School and a brother who attends Valencia Middle School. Dottie is the student council president. She's in the drama club, the principal's advisory team, and she's a member of the National Honor Society. She is the true example of a Jaguar. Not only is Dottie a leader in her extracurriculars, but she is a leader for all of our student body. She promotes positivity and excitement in all that she does. She is a model student and maintains a 3.9 GPA with several dual credit and AP courses throughout her transcript. Dottie most recently was a lead in the VHS drama production, The Grand Malarkey. This was a dinner mystery where the actors were also part of serving a dinner to the audience. It was full of improv, mystery, and comedy. It was fun to see Dottie show off her theatrical side. Valencia High School would like to recognize Dottie as our first leader today. So congratulations.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Dr. Elwood, do you have any changes or deletions to the agenda? Under item 4, we are calling for approval of agenda.
I do not know.
Gentlemen, is there anyone who would like to motion for any changes to the agenda at this time? Hearing none, I'll stand for a motion to approve the agenda. So I got a motion by Mr. Smith and I got a second by Mr. Bennett. Any discussion on the agenda? I'll call for the vote. Mr. Guidon?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. The agenda is approved. Under item 5, we are doing a public recognition on our above and beyond honoree. This is also Mrs. Gu from Valencia High School. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Elder to give us some information on this honoree.
Thank you, Dorothy and Principal Aragon. Did you come up with her? And administrative team. Thank you. Valencia High School has selected Dorothy Booth as our above and beyond student. Dottie was chosen by the administrators and staff at Valencia High School for the above and beyond recipient because of all the extras that she does for our campus. As was mentioned before, Dottie is part of many clubs and organizations. She is a leader in every sense of the word, but there are 2 areas that stick out as going above and beyond. First of all, Dottie is a student mentor for a special education student at Valencia Middle School. She goes for one class each day to help a younger student complete classroom assignments and participate in class activities. She is patient and kind. It is a great match. She truly enjoys mentoring at VMS. Secondly, Dottie is an outstanding citizen. She attends most every home sporting event. She will consistently stay afterwards and clean up the students' section after every game. She takes pride in her school and promotes citizenship among her peers. She is a true example of what a Jaguar student should be. Thank you, Dottie, for always going above and beyond at Valencia High School.
So you get another one out there, and I congratulate you all over again. Under item 6 is public comment. Dr. Alvin, do you have any requests for public comment?
President Garcia, we have one community member who would like to comment this evening.
Thank you. All right, so the board welcomes public input and utilizes this portion of the agenda to listen to individuals who have requested to address the board regarding an agenda item in accordance with board policy. Since it's our being assembled, you have read and understood the guidelines for addressing an item during the school board meeting. You have agreed to make no slanders or public utterances, and you realize that your statements will become public records. You have agreed that we will not discuss personnel issues or issues related to specific students, but instead we'll request to be in an executive session if you have to present such items. We would ask that you come to the podium so that you can be heard and identify yourself for the record. Thank you, ma'am.
Dan Sanders,
Go ahead.
for the record. Madam President, members of the board, interim superintendent Elder, thank you for the opportunity to address the board through public comment. I want to inform the public regarding a situation that I've been trying to resolve since March 7th of 2023, 2 weeks ago. I attended the November 29th, 2022 meeting when Mr. Smith gave an update regarding the policy committee that was being formed at that time. I have also reviewed the board meeting of November 29th, 2022. I'd like to share several comments made by Mr. Smith during that meeting. He was asked for a list of individuals that wanted to participate on the policy committee. At the 2-hour, 14-minute mark and until the 2-hour, 28-minute mark, Mr. Smith went into a speech about wanting people from the community to be on the committee, inclusive of a specific comment, and I quote, "It would not be right and unethical for me to decide the members of the policy committee." He went on to say that he wanted to have people that were interested in serving on the committee to be solicited. He continued by stating that people that wanted to be on the committee were the same people that wanted to be engaged in the community. Specifically, at the 2-hour, 23-minute mark of the November 29th meeting, Mr. Smith asked all board members to submit a name to serve on the policy committee and stated that he had no problem with that. That evening, I asked my board representative, Mr. Bennett, if he would consider submitting my name to President Garcia for consideration to serve on the policy committee. Mr. Bennett then informed me that he had forwarded my name to Ms. Garcia. I waited to hear about my placement on the committee. I didn't hear anything, so I approached Ms. Garcia at the end of the January meeting and asked her if she was going to place me on the committee. Her answer to me was, and I quote, "I don't see how I can tell you no." I received an email with the details and attachments for the March 7th meeting. I then received a phone call in the afternoon of March 6th from Mr. Bennett. He indicated that Ms. Garcia had asked him to call me and asked me to step down from the committee. I let him know that I would think about it and decide what I wanted to do. I decided that I had much to offer the committee, inclusive of history, personnel experience, chief negotiator for administration during collective bargaining, superintendent experience, and 20 or more years of assisting with the development and implementation of Holston School Board policy. I showed up at the March 7th meeting and was met by Mr. Smith asking me if I had received an email that day. I indicated that I had not. He then left the room, and after a couple of minutes, Ms. Garcia asked me to step into the conference room. She proceeded to tell me that I was not on the committee. I indicated that I wasn't going to step down from the committee because Mr. Smith didn't want me to serve. I also stated that I needed a very good explanation as to why I was being told that I was not on the committee after I had already had been told that I was going to be. Ms. Garcia indicated that Mr. Smith didn't want me on the committee and used an excuse that made no sense to me. Ms. Garcia was met with extreme resistance and argument from me, and for those of you that know me, you know that was probably true. I indicated that I do not believe that she or Mr. Smith could remove me from the committee, as I had gone through the proper channels to be placed on the committee from the start. As Mr. Smith and Ms. Garcia have no more authority than Mr. Bennett does on this school board. Ms. Garcia then asked why I wanted to be on the committee, and I explained why I wanted to serve, inclusive of assisting with suggestions for the implementation aspects of the policy that are adopted, as I would look at them from the superintendent perspective. I wondered if any other committee member was asked why they wanted to serve. In the end, after an extremely contentious meeting, I told her that I would consider stepping down from the committee if Mr. Smith was able to give me a good reason for doing so in a face-to-face meeting. Before I left central office on March 7, 2023, Ms. Garcia told me, Dr. Elder and Mr. Vickers, that I would be remaining on the committee. The following night, an invitation was sent to the policy committee from, I assume, Mr. Smith for the next policy committee meeting, which is March 28, 2023. I was forwarded the invitation by two individuals that were on the committee and had noticed that my name and only my name had been removed from the list. She sent me a message letting me know that she would need to talk to Mr. Smith. This afternoon, I received a text message from Ms. Garcia indicating that Mr. Smith would talk to Mr. Bennett, but was unable to talk or interact with me because of a lawsuit, and that he would be contacting his school attorney for an opinion. It is unfortunately a laughable excuse. What lawsuit is he even talking about? I've reviewed current board policy 2.4.3 temporary committees, and in a nutshell, the policy says that a temporary committee will be formed by the board and terminated by a vote of the board. Nowhere in policy or state law does it state that an individual board member has the unilateral authority to dissolve a committee or remove an individual committee member. A portion of policy 8.1, public relations goals and obligations, states that the board will invite discussion and suggestions on important educational policies and shall attempt at all times to represent the entire community. The beginning portion of board policy 8.15, community involvement decision-making, states that residents of the community shall be encouraged to take an active part in school affairs, community involvement, and other relevant policies. Nothing about removing a committee member simply because you have personal issues with him is outlined in that board policy.
Says I don't have the timbre that went up, but it's past 10 minutes.
Okay, I have two sentences. May I
Go ahead, yes, ma'am.
all said and done, I'll be attending the March 24th policy committee meeting as an active member. I look forward to work with that committee unless I receive a formal letter from this board stating that I cannot participate on this committee, outlining your reasons. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. All right, so the next item on the agenda is approval of consent items. So I'll stand for a motion regarding consent items. Gentlemen, you have the paper in front of you of what has been looked at for discussion.
Ms. Garcia,
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that we approve the consent items with the exception of item number 14, presentation and approval of the 2023-2024 student calendar.
Second.
So I got a motion and a second for the consent items to be consented to, except for item number 14, presentation and approval of the student calendar. I got a motion and I got a second. Do I have any discussion? Mr. Leon made the second. Okay, not hearing any discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Smith, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Consent items have been approved, except for item number 14, presentation for the students calendar. Next item on the agenda is the report by the superintendent. Dr. Elder, this is turning it over to you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item in the superintendent's report is actually a report from one of our amazing Valencia High School students. Valencia High School has selected Adriano Ortiz as their student representative this evening. He is a senior also at Valencia High School. He lives with his parents, Derek and Denise Ortiz. He has two brothers and two sisters. Adriano is part of the Jaguar football team and the National Honor Society. He is an excellent student and a leader on campus. Adriano is part of our career and technical classes, including welding and auto. Adriano had the opportunity to play in the Blue-Gray All-American National High School football game in Dallas Cowboys Stadium in the fall. After high school, Adriano plans on attending college in Kansas at St. Mary's, where he will play football. We are very proud of Adriano and all that he has accomplished at Valencia High School and wish him the best in his future endeavors. And with that, sir, you have the floor.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Los Angeles School Board, and Superintendent Elder. I'm honored to have this opportunity to speak on behalf of my school, Valencia High School. I'm Adriano Ortiz, a senior at Valencia High School. The last 4 years have been a treasure. I'm beyond grateful to all the teachers and staff that have been part of my education at VHS. In the past 4 years, I have had the privilege to play varsity football. I have received the academic award the last 4 years, and I'm also part of the National Honor Society. As a student athlete at Valencia High School, I not only have to maintain the grades to be eligible to play, but I have to remember to maintain my body to keep up with the game. I have played several positions on the Jaguar football team. I played quarterback, fullback, slot receiver, and middle linebacker. Throughout all of this, I've learned how to be a good teammate and leader. I have been blessed and honored to be named a team captain. Our team had many great players, but it took all of us working together to win. I would take this skill with me into my future. I would also like to proudly share with my help of my academic team, made up of my counselor, Ms. Montgomery, and the Valencia High School staff, have been given the opportunity to continue my education and athletic career at the University of St. Mary and Leavenworth campus. I've also been blessed to be receiving a presidential scholarship worth $70,000, the Spire Award, and a football scholarship. I would have never been able to make this dream a reality without the teamwork and confidence all my teachers had in me. Valencia High School student life is like no other. Every staff member wants the best for each and every student. The staff has helped me get through tough times and complete my goals. Being successful all depends on the students themselves and how much they're willing to open up for the help. I really can't say anything bad about any staff member at my school. Every person is willing to help students and always in great spirits of helping each other. I am a true believer in putting out good vibes, and this is what you feel walking on the campus at VHS. Thank you for this opportunity about sharing my high school experience. Go Jags.
Congratulations, Mr. Ortiz. Mr. Aragón, did you want to add anything? At this time, I didn't know you were standing.
Not at this time.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, any comments or questions for Mr. Ortiz?
I have a question. What are you gonna major in when you get the Kansas?
Business.
Well, I just want to say congratulations on all your accomplishments. You definitely shed a good light on them, guys.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Gentlemen on the side?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. You got a great scholarship. That's wonderful. Hope you do well when you go to Kansas.
Thank you.
Are your parents here tonight?
Yes.
Did you guys stand up?
Not bad.
Good job, guys.
I also don't have any questions, Mr. Ortiz, just from the community and the leadership here at the school. Congratulations. We wish you the best. I don't know what kind of business you want to own. I hope you come back to Valencia County at some point. But, have you been to Kansas before?
Just the time when I went over there to visit.
Okay, so I'm sure it's a little bit of a awakening compared to New Mexico, but I think it's just fun. All right, well, good job, young man, and we wish you the best.
Thank you. Next up, we have Principal Albert Dardon to present on what the high school and some of the amazing work that they're doing with the Jags.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Albert Cabinet. Thank you for the opportunity to share about Valencia High School. Joining us this evening is Assistant Principal Ms. Jennifer Othello. Also, Assistant Principal Ms. Chelsea Cepeda. I'll give this opportunity to staff members who have attended this evening. Thank you for your time, and as always, thank you for your commitment to Valencia High School. We truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Up next to share is going to be Mr. Hontus, and that would be our first line.
So at Valencia High School, just like any other school, we have a 90-day plan to support student academics, learning and growth. The kind of the cornerstone of this plan for us is our winning recipe, utilizing the winning recipe to communicate our learning targets to our students every day in class. That is what we focused on last semester, really making sure that we had all 4 elements of the learning targets of the winning recipe in each learning target. And then this semester, as our 90-day plan progresses through the year, we are looking at how are those learning targets aligned to the actual student activity occurring inside of the classroom. And so we're really looking at having some rich conversations with our teachers around those topics this semester. In order to have those conversations, we center those conversations inside of our observation and feedback cycles. So every 2 weeks, our goal is to see every one of our teachers at least once every 2 weeks. And then we follow up with them. So we stop off in our classroom, we follow up with them on if we saw a learning target. And if we did see a learning target, was it aligned to what was happening inside of the classroom that day? And this has led to some really rich conversations about our classroom engagement, the rigor that we're asking of our students, and the alignment of our curriculum to standards. When we go into each of these classrooms, we also utilize a data tracking system. So we have a Google form that we have put together, and it's just quick, right? Because we go into classrooms with quick visits. So we are able to state whether they have anywhere from 1 to 4 of the learning targets, if that learning activity is aligned to that learning target for the day. And then that gives us a solid piece of data to go back and talk to our teachers about. And we can talk about that growth over time as well with our teachers. Ultimately, we want to see this pay off in student learning, in their growth of their academics. We have had 2 fabulous students here tonight show off what our kids are capable of. And we know that every single one of our students are capable of that. So that kind of brings us to our short cycle assessment, which is our NWEA or our MAPS assessment. In fact, we just had our department heads meet today and game planning what that's going to look like. How are we going to get that 95% or better completion? We know that having high completion of that short cycle assessment is going to give us stronger data to inform how we move forward as Valencia High School. And with that, I would like to introduce Mr. Albert Dardon.
So when we talk about academic improvement, the information that I'm about to share truly are tools that we're trying to use to improve our academic achievement. When you take a look at the first bullet, it talks about a rigorous and complete curriculum, accelerated tier 1 instruction, leadership development, and routinized technology and SEO. And I'm gonna go and help you out here, Mr. Bennett. So you're like, what does all that mean? So we're just gonna do a little bit to it right now. I'm gonna help you. So what does that mean? It means that we're focused and committed to challenging students in the classroom. It means that whenever a student walks in the classroom, they know that they're going to be challenged. Students know that they're going to receive grade level standards. It means that students are going to be able to have the opportunity to grow and be the best version of themselves every day and be committed to becoming the best version of themselves every day. Many teachers are committed to teaching students and providing the supports that are needed to move students. It is a commitment to demonstrating proficiency and understanding that there's going to be multiple challenges, and we're committed to overcoming these challenges as we move forward to support Valencia High School as a whole. So the next thing I want to share just a little bit about just our collaborative Tuesdays. What it means is that we have implemented into our weekly schedule every Tuesday, regardless of the discipline taught, teachers with the same prep meet to discuss and share how to improve academic growth. In addition, the most recent few Tuesdays were used to implement CPI. So again, let me help you out this time, Mr. Young. What is CPI? I'm not going to beat you too much. So what does that mean? It means that is a tool or strategy that we use to de-escalate situations. How do we have conversations and communicate with students and adults to really build those meaningful relationships that support the overall growth of the student? I was thinking, I'd like to thank Ms. Susan Chavez, Arturo Fierro, Ms. McGowan, and Melissa Gallegos. And again, Arturo Fierro and Melissa Gallegos, they're the ones who implemented the in-person training. I believe we have every teacher has completed the in-person training, exception to, and then working on getting that done. I was thinking de-escalating situations, maybe using a sense of humor, CPI for board members. I don't know. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh. You can laugh. And then the last piece is just our COPs. It is just our collaborative piece in which we have the opportunity, or at least two Wednesdays a month, where principals get the opportunity to go into campuses and look at all the brilliant things that different teachers are doing, and how can we steal tools and strategies? How can we improve rigor? What is it that we need to do in order to improve our instructional strategies and become those instructional leaders in the classroom? So I'd really like to thank all the principals throughout the district and all the central office administrative staff who have provided us that opportunity to become instructional leaders. What a great opportunity to be committed to getting better, and the effort and the work that is demonstrated by the colleagues, I think really is impressive. In talking about building those partnerships and relationships with stakeholders and community members, I think it'd be really neat to see a board member truly attend one of those COPs where you have many administrators walk into the various classrooms and really trying to learn and get better at what they do, so that we can support students, teachers, and then teachers have the opportunity to support students. And I really like to share with you very layman terms, very simply, because that's what we're doing. We're here to be take things that are very complex, make them very simple, and really help move our students forward. So that's what the academic component of it entails for us at Valencia High School. And then Ms. O'Fallon is going to share just a little bit about the community, and then I'd like to share a little bit about community and relationships and partnerships that we've implemented at VHS. And to make sure I don't steal anything from her, I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to her at this time.
Thank you, sir. Our last piece, our last slide is the parent and family communication piece. Of course, like all of us, we are excited to have families back on our campus this year. We have an amazing group of parents and boosters, supportive businesses, and college connections with UNMBC. that are making Valencia a great place to be. So we have, of course, the district Remind, that is one of our strong communication pieces. Our counselors utilize it, our teachers utilize it with their classes, and we use it school-wide for many different messages that we send out. Our counselors also use the Canvas piece to send out stuff for scholarships, information regarding new classes, new programs that they're trying to implement. So all of our staff on campus is really committed to using the technology piece to get those points across to our families. Social media plays a big part in that. We have Mr. Navarro who sends out Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have all the social media stops where our staff and our parents and our students can get great information. We also update Ms. Olivas with our homepage for the district. One of the things that we implemented this year was registration nights. So during our JAG time, our students registered, and then the following week, their parents were invited to come and get some information regarding the registration process and what it looks for the next school year for their students and what the expectations were academically moving forward. We have community support nights, sports nights, as well as we had a cheer night most recently, where we invite our feeder schools, the littles to come, the families to come and see what are the great programs that are going on at Valencia High School. And lastly, we have an event coming up, Fiesta Valencia. It is going to be on Wednesday, April 26th from 4:30 to 7. It's an open house. It's inviting all our community parents, our feeder schools, as well as all our programs on site to share all the great things that they're doing and to make sure that we get out our story to our community and let them know what is going on and how they can be part of the programs at Valencia.
Just wanted to share one piece, which I think is unique. And I also think that it's implemented by many of the administrators that we have within our district. Is we've really talked about flipping the narrative whenever we're calling home because of a discipline issue, whenever we're calling home because of behavior issue. We've really tried to commit to making sure when we have those phone calls, that those phone calls are about building relationships with parents. Those phone calls are about helping us develop that partnership. And we often talk about, yes, we are calling because of the behavior issue, but we'd also like to ask you, how can we get better to support your student? How can we develop that partnership that supports the growth of your student, our campus, and us as adults so that we can better serve our students? And I think many of us practice this, but I think it really is an instrumental piece in regards to how we can create that community that we want to create. How can we create that culture where people are willing to take risks, where people are willing to be vulnerable, where people feel comfortable reaching out to Valencia High School or a site so that they can ensure that things are going in the right direction. And I really think that is something that is implemented throughout the campus. And I really would like to take this opportunity just to reach out to parents and say, we need your help, we need your support. And if it becomes a partnership and we're working together, I think that we can really grow the community and create that culture that we would create to make sure that we have success on our campus for all parties. Some of the things that have been mentioned tonight that are a little bit different, that we're very fortunate to be able to put on at the high school, like the Grand Lord, which was an open community event, like April 26th, whenever we're going to have the Taste of Valencia. We're going to have all our feeder schools displaying all the amazing work that students and staff are doing. So I just think what a great opportunity moving forward to create those partnerships to support us as a whole. And I just really would like for us to come in that particular year. How can we work together moving forward? So thank you for the opportunity to share, and we'll stand for any questions that you might have for any of us. Thank you.
Yes, please, go ahead, sir.
So, Coach, ever since we used to fight over sharing a gym back in the day, I have watched your love for this district grow. And I've watched you do your presentations as a principal from the first year until today. And it continues to amaze me, the improvement that you're doing at Valencia High School. And the love you obviously have for that community, and I support you 100% in saying that it's community involvement, and it is those relationships that you build with the parents and the community. It takes an army to do that, to do what you guys do, and you guys do all the hard work, and we're just here to support you. So like I said, I've always been impressed with you and your staff. You just do a terrific job. You had some major accomplishments this past weekend, though, didn't you?
Absolutely, yes. I'd like to say have a huge shout out to Coach Amanda Chavez and Coach Marisol Sanchez. Our cheerleaders took second place this past weekend in the cheerleaders. We'd also like to point out, when you take a look at the breakdown of scores, Valencia High School had the highest score of any one performance. That first score was in the 90s, which again was clearly higher than all of the other schools. The second performance score was no lower, and that's what led to the second place on the red trophy. But nonetheless, the commitment and the expectation that the coaches have for those young ladies is very evident by their performance. I'd also like to congratulate our jazz team, our dance team, had a very strong performance as well, and that program continues to grow. I'm sure Mr. Holland gets the opportunity to share about sports and activities. He'll be sharing that information. But yes, sir. Thank you. Congratulations, the Jags. Yes, absolutely.
Were you done, Mr. Smith?
I was.
Mr. Bennett?
He answered all my questions like you. Thanks, I know you guys do wonderful. All that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your support. Absolutely.
Mr. Vickers, go ahead.
So you invited us to go to COP from when?
I would love, our next COP would be next Wednesday. That sound right? And yes,
Wednesday?
and for the principals, they start about 9 o'clock. We all meet at a specific location. We get some direction and guidance as to what our focus is going to be for that day. Then the gracious host then kind of shares the classrooms. Then we go ahead and they kind of divide us up, and we go into the classrooms, and we're looking for specific structures, processes, rigor. We'll have a specific focus. And I will touch base with Dr. Elder and make sure that we get that to you. Like this house can go, Dr. Elder, you're the union superintendent. You'll get that information to you, please.
Take care of the invitation and consult with our calendar.
I really wholeheartedly, I truly believe you will be impressed about the commitment of the administrative team and their commitment to getting better, to support teachers. Again, that leads to really helping teachers get better, which leads to our kids, right? Because that's why we need to rear for kids.
Right. So Fiesta Valencia is the 26th.
The Fiesta Valencia is, yes, sir, Wednesday, April 26th from 4:30 to 6:37. And leading the charge right now is Miss Navarro is really hoping to do that. We've been in communication with all of our feeder schools. We've had multiple conversations about what we can do to really showcase the great talents. It kind of came from in the past, we had what we call the Taste of Valencia, which I know you are well aware of. We had the opportunity to really showcase the talents of Valencia, and we would like to grow and take the opportunity to showcase the talents of the community on the east side. You saw it, yeah. Yes, and we have great students. We have great students within our district. We have great people within our district. And I really would love for us just to begin to showcase the talents, and what a great opportunity that's going to provide for us to develop some relationships with families and parents. That's the intent. Yes, it truly is.
Great, and I would second this sentiment that we're here to support you.
Yes, sir.
And if there's something that we could do to make it better, or something we're doing that's creating a roadblock, we need to know about it. We really do. So I definitely there for you And I also wanted to mention, you know, I follow basketball pretty heavily, and I noticed the girls 10th seeded, they went down to silver and they won. I thought that was just terrific. And so that was a great accomplishment for the girls basketball team.
Yes, sir, and they are really young. They lose 2 seniors, the majority of their kiddos who get a lot of playing time are all coming back. Definitely could see them a preseason top 7 next year. So Miss Medina, Coach Medina, the freshman on top 7 next year. A lot of young student athletes. Great for young ladies.
Great.
So,
We took the time to take them to Western, to the campus, when they were down there.
Oh, cool, very good.
So with that being said, talking about, Mr. Fox, don't get that much. But one of the things, you know, talking about building relationships in community, one of the things that our girls team did is they made sure on one particular night that they recognized and celebrated multiple students within our campus and really recognize them and honor them. So it's really cool to see them serve. And it's really cool because so many times they're celebrating and championing, and for them to humble themselves and serve is really cool. So.
Go ahead.
Albert, you have to be proud of. I mean, I'm proud of what you're doing there. It just shows the work you're putting in. But the reason why you look good, you have to have a tremendous staff behind you. You have to, because everything is positive there.
I would like.
Go ahead.
I would just like to thank the personnel office. Like for this year, this is the first time we have been fully staffed. Every teaching position has been filled. And we have even been fully staffed whenever it comes to, sure I get this right, the certified positions, EAs, throughout the classified. Throughout, we have been fully staffed, and you're right, it makes a huge difference when you're fully staffed. I would also say that our turnover ratio has been very minimal. We don't have any teacher who's asked to leave at this time. So you're correct. Great people, absolutely.
Good. And I have those 2 days written down.
Yes, sir. Please, I really believe you'll. I would be. If you weren't impressed, I would be. Oh, okay, you take a little more. We'll get you.
That's a great job. I just want to say that your community response has been really evident for your parents in your district and all the kids and all the support that you have. I want to commend Ms. Navarro on her social media. Who's Ms. Navarro?
Mr.
Mr. Navarro, okay, and also Miss Olivia's, I think you said was here, Olivia's, who's she? Sitting. Is she here? Because I talked to her, but I don't know who she is either. So I just want to say good job, guys, because that feed that you're giving and the positivity of that high school is, I see it, I'm evident of it, and I know there's a lot of support in the community for you. How many of you are staff from Valencia High School? Stand up. Thank you, Mr. Article, for bringing your staff. And then just one last comment would be that conflict resolution is a tough thing to do. And I commend your staff for doing it because it's not easy, but it's so important to open those doors of communication and to not only talk, but to listen. And I think that hopefully your parents and your students and your teachers can appreciate that. It's a tough thing to do, but it's important. So good job.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, is that it? Okay, thank you, Mr. Aragón. All right, Dr. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The final component of your report this evening is a brief review of the leadership transition plan. As you know, whenever there's a leadership transition mid-year, it leaves us open to disruption and loss of focus. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to keep the focus on student learning for the remainder of this school year at interim. And so I wanted to just kind of go through a very high level overview of the plan. And it will go on our district website as well after this evening. And so, as you know, I'm guided by our motto, our vision, and our mission, and our foundational assumptions. I'm not going to read all of that small print to you. We're very familiar with the motto, vision, and mission. The foundational assumptions that we've used in the last couple of years, and I'll give you a very, very brief summary. Basically, our foundational assumptions underlie what we want for every student. And that is that we want every student to graduate with the knowledge, skills, and attributes to pursue a path of their choice. So that they're prepared for anything that they want to do right out of high school and anything they want to do 5 to 10 years later. We want to be sure that they're ready. And in order to do that, we believe that every student deserves access to a rigorous and robust and complete curriculum, grade level standards, and world-class instruction and materials to support them. We believe that every student deserves to use technology as a tool for learning and as a tool to communicate their learning, just as we do professionally in our everyday lives. We believe that every student deserves a classroom experience that acknowledges who they are as whole people. They don't just come to us as friends and sit in their chairs in our classrooms. They come to us as people, as whole people, and we want to acknowledge them as whole people and acknowledge that in every stage, in every grade, they are growing and developing in all areas of human development, including their social, emotional, and cognitive development. We believe that every student deserves to have the opportunity to learn in multiple languages, just as their global peers. We believe that every student deserves to connect to the relevance of learning as they explore future career opportunities from the youngest grades. And in order to support students in all of these things, we believe that every educator deserves to be supported in staying current in the most effective practices in their field, implementing new initiatives, and perfecting their ability to improve student learning. And so with that, the transition plan is based around 4 areas. The first is board relations. The second is listening and planning for the future with everyone in our district. Third, increasing engagement and communication and transparency by telling the positive stories, just like we did this evening, of all the wonderful things that are happening in our district, and hearing from our community about ways we can improve, and using all of that to ensure a strong finish to the 2022-23 school year and get us ready for a successful start to 2023-24. So we'll take each of those areas very briefly under board relations. I think it's very important that we establish our relationship as positive and productive, that we establish communication structures so that everybody knows what to expect. I need to know what's expected of me, and how we can support each other, collaboration, and starting to align and build towards common goals. Next, as I listen and plan for the future, I'd like to hold several parent forums as a follow-up to the survey that we did in the fall, back in October, and we had research and polling to present. Parents told us a lot in that survey, but we didn't get to hear their voice. So they picked answers, but I feel like we need to get more from our families to help us rebuild post-COVID education even better than it was before. Not just parents, but students as well. I'll be holding some focus groups with students so I can hear directly from our current students, their thoughts on the education they're getting today and what they would like to get in their education in the future. I'll engage with our staff, our educators, our school leaders, and our central office to identify perceptions of what is working and what we need to improve so that we can all collectively improve student learning. And I'll use all of that information in planning for 2023-24. The focus of increasing engagement with the public is to really build that two-way communication. We'll engage with the business community, education partners like UNMVC, elected officials, civic organizations, with the goal of improving that two-way communication and telling the story of the things that we're doing in the listening schools. Finally, ensuring a strong finish and a successful beginning for next school year. For the rest of this year, we're going to prioritize every learning moment that we have with our students. We still have weeks left in the school year and a lot of work to do with our students. We'll evaluate the implementation of our new initiatives. We'll review student progress, and we'll use the input from all of the conversations to inform planning for 2023-24. As we do so, we'll prepare the budget, prepare for a bond election in November, and implement new New Mexico Public Education Department requirements. And so if that sounds like a lot in a first 100-day plan, it is. And so I've broken it up really into thirds, just with the timeline that you can see in front of you. That 100th day is July 28th. After that, I'll compile the data, everything that I learned from every conversation, and prepare a report that will then be presented in August. All along, we'll be using that data as we're planning for next year to look at what improvements we need to make. And so with that, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you this brief overview, and wondered if anyone had any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Elder. Gentlemen, any questions for Dr. Elder?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I just have a couple of comments. So, we had the opportunity to sit with you for an hour, and I believe I was just short of an hour, actually. And in that time, I felt that I got to know what you were about and the things that you wanted to do with this district. And your desire to include all of the stakeholders. And as I told Mr. Aragón, this does take an army, and they are part of this army, is very refreshing. As they do have a stake in our district's success. I love the fact that you're going to sit back and say what is working and what is not working. You're not going to come in here and just change everything. It's Dr. Elder's education 101 plan, and this is the way we're going to roll. Because we do have some things that are working in this district, and we all know that we have some things that need to be improved on, and I'm glad that you're taking that approach. But your focus was very, very apparent in this short period of time. It's directly geared towards staff involvement, towards student involvement, student achievement, the community involvement, the openness, the honesty, placing the student above all else, which is extremely refreshing, and taking care of our budget. And I don't know anything else that a board member could ask out of somebody. And I told you when I saw this, it's a healthy pie. And I'm sure that you're up to the task, and I'm glad that you're willing to take those extra steps to make sure that we continue to move forward. So I'm glad that you're here. I welcome you, and if there's anything we can do to support you, I will be here. Thank you.
Gentlemen, want to say anything? Go ahead, Mr. Rivers.
I can keep that for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Oh, okay. I read your plan. I met with you this a couple days ago, and I probably used your minutes that you gave up, right? But you mentioned, you said a few things in there that I keep keen off of, and that's students and your staff. You have a plan here. This plan is going to come out in public now. They're going to get to see it. They're going to see this template. I'm excited to see we have a plan going forward now. Let's see. What's impressive is you put yourself on the hook. You put some deadlines in there. That took some courage. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to this. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Elder, same thing. Welcome on board. I appreciated our conversations, and I know there'll be plenty more, and we wish you the best. Good job. Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes my report. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President,
Please go ahead.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Elder. You mentioned in here the the budget, when would you like to start working on that?
Very soon, as you know, the legislature just ended. And so when it's a longer session, it takes a little bit longer for school districts to get the information from head to construct the budget. And so we don't quite have the PDD timeline yet, but I know that we'll be conducting our preliminary word workshops and presenting initial information very soon.
Okay.
And I think to that, I would just add, members to look at their calendar. I think there's gonna be opportunity for a couple of workshops, really are gonna have to be held sooner rather than later, so probably within the next month, maybe 6 weeks. I know that staff will be reaching out to all board members to try to solid some dates so that we can start those conversations, so please keep that in mind. Thank you, Dr. Allen. All right, so where are we? Yes. Somebody had a question. Okay, so I believe we're next on the presentation of the policy. This is the second reading to policy 5.21 for leaves and absences requested by board member Vickers. Mr. Vickers, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, I'm sure it's second reading, so welcome any input from board members for amendments, changes, whatever thoughts that you have.
I did not receive any suggested comments to the presentation of the policy, changes the reads. So I don't know if any board members have those that they want to add now.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
so I just have some questions that maybe could be answered. I don't know the exact number, I'm assuming we have between 900 and 1,000 employees in the district. And it seems to me, and somebody knows it, without I can write it down and know it for next time. But we're making a major policy change for one person, in my opinion. And we're already living under an organizational chart that accommodates what you're talking about, Mr. Vickers, that we didn't get to approve because we resolved our right to do so. And I believe I was told that it's in the new handbook, but I can't find it. So if it's in there, possibly for the, if you let us know where you found that, I could go in there and find it. I did find it in 3 other districts. New policy amendments. So out of the 80 some that are using these new policies, I could only find it in 3 of them. One of my points is though, is that this policy is very specific. It deals with legislative leave. And one of my concerns is, what about if we have somebody that gets elected to the UNM Advisory Council or to the Soil and Water Conservancy Board? I mean, are they going to be required to use up their leave? And then if they have additional duties to perform those elected and or appointed positions, is that going to be leave without pay? That's one of the questions I have. And I know that's depending on the job, because admins in different sections of the school district earn leave at a different rate. Some people are given, I believe, 3 or 4 days at the beginning of the year, and then you can accrue it, but you can only use. And anytime I'm wrong, I'm looking at 6 days a year of personal leave, something to that effect. You can pay sick leave once you get 24 hours of sick leave, and so 2 hours of sick leave for 2 hours. Personal leave, but you can still only use 6 hours. So my point is, if one of these elected positions take longer than that, how do we accommodate them as well? So I'm not really sure about that. I know that in your change, you said, depending on what year it is, it's how long the session is, 60 days plus 10 days, plus, I guess, any additional that's required or something like that. So 60 plus 10 is 70 days of a 244-year contract is almost 30% of the time. Plus and the additional time definitely needs to be defined. I need to know what that means. What is additional time? Is there a limit to it? Is there not? And the reason I have these concerns is, like, for instance, bereavement leave, and I would hate to think that any of us would ever need that, but we do. If somebody in our family dies, we have 2 days. That's it. And then once you're out of once you're done with your 2 days, we're gonna start taking your leave from you. And then when you're done with your leave, then you're not getting paid, as far as I know. One scenario that I continue to think of is if we have a teacher that is in the National Guard and they get called out to duty for 30 days to Bosnia to represent our country. We'll give them 15 days of paid leave, and then after that, they're gonna start using their vacation. And then when their vacation's out, then their vacation's out. And after 30 days, if they come back within 30 days, I guess they have 8 hours to return to work. From what I understand from our policies, if it's longer than that, then the time changes a little bit. But my point is, if they get shipped out for 30 days, by the time they get back, if they're approved rate, if it's a teacher, they're not gonna have any leave to speak of when they get back. So in the grand scheme of things, I would like us to see change our leave policies to benefit every employee that we have in the district for whatever reason we can. I know we have extra money this year. I don't know what kind of pools we can put together. I don't know how we want to do this. But I would like to see us, if we're going to change leave policies, change it on a broader scale to where we're effectively taking care of a greater number of people. I mean, I would expect our district to treat everybody the same. That's the only questions I might have. And if you can perhaps address those at the third reading, I guess that would be sufficient for me. But those are some of the concerns that I have.
Mr. Smith, just for clarity, are we asking Mr. Vickers to answer some of those questions at the next reading?
No, I'm just telling you, these are my concerns. But I couldn't find, I couldn't find the policy that specifically said legislatively in the new manual, only in 3 districts. APS, maybe that's cases and more than probably not on that one. I think those are the only ones that I could find. If there's somewhere else I'd like to see.
Any other board members want to add anything?
Well, I'm gonna just mention that, Mr. Smith brought up many different scenarios for different, civic obligations that people might have, including National Guard. And this is not intended to just benefit one person. And what I was looking at it more broadly after thinking about it a while back. You know, they were talking to the legislature this time about paying legislators and making a regular job so that they could run if they wanted to without jeopardizing their income. And a policy like this would allow an employee, any employee at all, to run for office. And if they were to win it, it wouldn't negatively affect their income. So I just thought it was a great opportunity to give to employees to be able to serve the legislature if they so chose to do that. So it would cover more than just one person theoretically. It could cover multiple people, depending on where they live and what, whether they run for a representative or a senator.
Any other board members? Yes, Mr. Gilmore.
Mr. Vickers, this is some questions for you, and you don't have to answer them now. You can answer them at the next meeting at the third reading, but how does this policy change help or benefit a student in the classroom? I think the last time we heard our budget, and correct me, I think it was 197 or 193 million, something like that. So my second question is, how does this help or benefit a teacher in the classroom when the teachers, I talk to teachers all the time and they're having to buy supplies out of their own pocket to support those classrooms? My last question is, how does this policy benefit or help the taxpayer the taxpayers from this district? You don't have to answer those or not, you can answer this next week. But those are my questions.
The only thing I would like to just say about the policy is it's very detailed. It covers everything. So official leave, part leave, but you know, there was a snippet there for legislative leave. There's a leave there for family medical emergencies. I mean, we have a very, very good policy for any employee of this district, for whatever reason they want off. Our policy is pretty inclusive. Now, any employee can run for legislative office, any employee can run for any office, and I'm elected officials, I would encourage anybody in the community who wants to run for any office to run. I think the point is just to consider the fact that how it affects their number one employment, how it affects number one their pay, and these are something that we're not taking into account when employing that we're taking into account all of them. So that's how I would approach it. That's how I would vote on it. So I don't have any comments to make other than our board policy of 5.21 is very covers everything. So if any public member has any comments on it, of course, we read it. Because this is our second read, we're going to be at a third read at the next meeting, which is going to be in April. And then, of course, Mr. Vickers, if you have any more information to add between now and then, we'll address it at that meeting. Not hearing any other comments, then that concludes the second read for the policy of leaves and absences. We're on item number 11, the reports. This is going to be the policy committee report, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Brian Smith, their report.
So this will be a brief report. So actually, obviously, we're working on some details. We've broken the manual into sections, and we should start our board readings probably at the next meeting. There's going to be another section that's going to be handed out to the policy committee. So one of the thoughts that I had though is, again, and I said this before, with one meeting a month, this is going to take a very long time. So what I would like for you to consider, and this is the for consideration right now, is possibly in 3 board meetings when we get to having first reading, second reading, third reading. If that makes sense to you. Then maybe we can start adding meetings in between our regularly scheduled board meetings, open meetings, just like a board meeting, nothing on the agenda except for the policy reads. And if we can schedule those, and we don't have to do it every month, but I would like to, that way it's going to speed up the process, and at least we can do it 33% faster, possibly, you know, twice as fast, but I would like to see us maybe consider doing that. And again, there's nothing on the agenda but policy reads.
And that would be following our current policy to 3 reads, or would you amend? That's going with our current policy and 3 reads.
Correct, yes. So instead of having it take 3 months for 3 reads, it could take. Yeah, correct. 5 weeks, and then we just continue going back. So that's just something to consider. But as I said, you know, we have few details to work out, but we should start having reads at the next board meeting.
Are you taking, excuse me, I'll jump in, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, are you taking certain chunks of the policies at a time?
We started from the beginning of the manual. I skipped section B, which is board. I forgot the exact name of the exact title, but it deals with board relations. So I figured my suggestion would be that we do that in a work session, because that policy deals with specifically with the board members and how we govern. So I think that's the way we should do that. So we started with A, that is section B, should be done in a work session. Section C, we did section, we're going out of turn, we're going to section I at the request of Dr. Elder, which is the instructional section. He wanted us to jump ahead to that one for reasons that I have no business asking her. She knows way more about it than I do. So for instructional purposes. So we're going to jump out of order and do section I at the next meeting. We were also discussing a way that we do it now is we go to the meeting and we right before the meeting we hand out the policies. we're gonna try to work it to where we're handing out these policies a couple of weeks in advance. So when we get to the meeting, the people have already read the policies and then can ask questions, instead of reading them for the first time, you come up with questions and on the drive home saying I should have done something. else. So, once we get that all ironed out, we should start flowing, but we should start having some readings at the next meeting.
Board members, any discussion on the report by Mr. Stan?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
so our next meeting is March 28th, which is. Excuse me? Okay, well, I'm looking at an announcement of the meeting at the end of this agenda.
Well, that's.
So- Is that accurate? March 28th?
That's, I thought we had one on March 28th on Thursday.
Well, that's the policy, right?
So that's, what, 8 days away? Or 7 or something. When are we going to get those policies to look at it in advance?
So probably by Thursday. Okay.
And on the issue of adding meetings, I know that at one of the workshops, one of the conferences that we had, there was a statement made about that school board meetings are supposed to be published a year in advance. At the schedule. So I think we need to look at that and double check with legal counsel regarding what are our recommendations about adding meetings that aren't on these, the universal schedule.
We have council present, and I don't know if she.
You don't have to do it now.
That's a quick answer. Quick answer.
Quick answer, and I'm very loud, but we are waiting for the mic, just in case. Quick answer on that, yes, it is best protocol that you have your regular meetings published 1 week in advance, but there is no requirement that you publish every single meeting. In fact, that's not even practically possible. Special meetings have to come up, and that's why the law allows for a 72-hour notice for special meetings to be placed into the work of the board. So if you're going to add special, in this case, policy meetings would be special meetings. They are for a special purpose and not for the regular business of the board, and therefore do not require a 1 year advance kind of publication.
So then we should call those special meetings.
They would have to be called a special meeting.
Okay, right. Go ahead.
So of course, that's not a vote at this time, but that is something board members might want to consider, because I agree with Mr. Smith. I'd like to try to move this forward. If that means we're meeting every 2 weeks, and that means we're meeting every 2 weeks. So you might want to look at your calendar, and that might be an item we have to discuss at the next meeting.
And that's also something we could do 100%, correct?
Are you putting me on the spot
I
again?
am.
I'm thinking about it. I believe that you can,
Okay.
but I would check just to make sure and get back to you to verify.
All right, thank you.
Any other board members have comments on the report by the policy? Is it possible for all board members to get a copy of those policies you're working on, as you're working on them?
Yeah, I'll send it to Mr. Kennedy. I'm sure he'll-
Thank you. I think that-
As we work on it.
Or at least to know which ones you are working on. So yes, that's not true. Any other discussion on that? I'm not hearing anything. Let's go ahead and go to the report. Also requested by Mr. Smith for the update on Carlton Elementary building. I believe we have Tiffany in the room, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith first.
That's it. I just wanted an update because we talked about this a very, very long time ago.
Right.
About,
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent, Dr. Elder. It's my pleasure to bring an update on Carlton Elementary, new school, I should say. I know a lot of the community has skepticism on when this is going to happen. If it's going to happen, it's been a long process well before COVID. And I wanted to bring an update to you to show you all the remarkable things that our committee, as well as the architect team, which is Decker Parrish Sabatini, which I'll refer to as DPS, have been doing behind the scenes, and so everyone can have an update on that. So we're going to go to the first slide. So here you can see this is a rendering of the building as we have it now in the design phase. And this is how it would fit on the site against 47 and Molina. So it gives the school more of a storefront look to it, designating an actual entrance to the facility and campusing all the students in one building. One thing I did want to mention, as I did before, is we have a committee of 10 members as our core committee that are made up of our principal, Crowell Elementary, additional staff from the school, as well as parent input and different administrators from special services, our procurement team, our facility team as well. And so I can go to the next slide. Here's a second rendering that kind of gives you a little bit more. You can't really see it in this picture of how the building's going to be laid out on that campus, as well as different parent drives. One thing I do want to mention is the unique thing about this site, we will house our first pre-K facility, our pre-K center. So this school will house all the pre-K that would be feeder to Valencia High School. Encompassed on the campus, and then we would also have kindergarten through 6th grade as well. And if you go to the next one. So as we've been designing the facility and the layout of what will fit on this campus, this kind of shows you a 2-story plan. It's not a full 2-story building. We will have one wing that will house our administrative on the bottom, as well as our library, cafeteria, our first through 3rd grade. And then the second floor, which you see on the right-hand side, would be our 4th through 6th grade, would be upstairs, as well as our innovation lab, our band room, in that aspect. And if you look at the wing going south, that would be our kindergarten and pre-K wing encompassed all together. And continue on. This is just some renderings of what the outside of the building, the architect team, it's not our color set, it's just something that they're wanting to show us how this would fit on campus, what an entrance to the campus would look like. So on the top photo, you kind of see as you drive onto the main entrance, that's what your view would be. And then the bottom picture would be north of the school, encompassing our playground and play area. And I do want to mention is an update to this report. We're currently been meeting with all our different departments. So as we have a planning committee of 10 people, our architect team has been meeting individually with student nutrition, our security, they've been meeting with technology, our maintenance department, special services, to kind of get an encompass as a whole of what does this campus need. It's just not what maintenance thinks it needs. It's just not what our staff proudly needs. We work together as a community. And so we want to make sure that each department, we encompass those spaces that are needed to have a fully functional school. And so now that we've collaborated and finishing up those meetings, we're excited to get to the fun part of designing the interior colors, what that material is going to look like, and start getting a better visual picture of the campus. One thing that DPS is partnering up with Crowell Elementary is for their parent night, which we're really excited that we'll be able to present some bigger renderings for parents to come to the campus and interact with our architects as well as our students, with interactive architecture features for them to engage in different activities. So we want to encourage the community to come out on April 21st from 5:30 to 7, so they can get a better idea and an up close look at what this campus looks like. And then also just see what their input is and see what they feel about it. With that, I stand for any questions.
Oh, yeah, I have one. So you don't have any exits planned on Highway 47 at all?
No, we do have we have a curb cut that's there already that will service as our first responder entrance as well as a maintenance route. So it will be for emergency purposes, we can exit there. But we did not add any additional curb cuts due to the planning process of that and then the safety of exiting vehicles and students across that road.
Board members, go ahead. Any questions?
So just a couple. So the first picture, sort of an aerial view, is that the current fence property line?
Correct. So
Okay.
this encompasses our current property and
Part of the strategic reason of building the school the way we did was for site security, we encompass it all in one building. And then also to create a way that we can have an active campus during construction to eliminate the need to move everybody, renovate what we call the blue school to get those portables because they are aged, kind of outlived their life. So we could spend a lot of money renovating those when we could be spending that time doing the design on the new school, putting that money into the facility, the kids will be their permanent home. So part of the reason we spent time looking at designs that we can keep a lot of the structures that are there, have school next school year, and then start construction is we're targeting the beginning of January 2024
To begin.
to begin construction. So right now, we're just in the design phase. And then once that's complete, we'll be going out for bid, and hopefully our goal is to have construction started in January.
So that you're gonna be building it as you go, we're not gonna school kids.
The kids will be in the current buildings. There is one section of the building that will be demolished. And we're able to accommodate and put some portables in place on the campus that isn't going to be under construction. We'll build the school site, which is the permanent building. Then we'll move all the kids into that and then do the outside site work.
So is it possible to overlay this picture on an aerial view of the current?
Yes, and we do have those. I can request, yeah, I can request that from GPS, but we have, that's been a lot of our planning was overlaying those and seeing what fits best for that permanent structure.
And how many students do we have here? I'm just wondering how.
I think Amy, do you have that number? Right, at 250.
250, so when school starts, I guess. In, well, January of 2024, you're gonna start construction. So this break that you're talking about from when school starts. Are we putting all those kids in one existing building?
There, if you've been to Crawford Elementary, there's multiple buildings on that site, so we're able to adjust the way we utilize spaces to accommodate for every classroom that's going to be needed.
Okay, yeah, I guess that overlay.
And so part of the reason we don't have the pre-K center there yet, so that's half of the students that will be on that site eventually. So it gives us an opportunity to move those students around, be able to build, and then once that building's made, then we'll bring all the pre-K over as well as the students that are existing there.
And just a couple more things. There was an issue, I thought, it's been a while. There was a chunk of land in the corner or something?
Yeah, so we do have a piece of land in that northwest corner. You can kind of see a parking lot. Again, this rendering is a work in progress. It's just a rendering, so you can kind of see more of what our building's gonna look like. That north parking lot would be a staff parking lot, as well as, you can see we made a long parent kind of stacking line for parent drop off and a loop to alleviate some of those cars from stacking on Molina. And then we'll also have a parent loop to the south parking lot for our pre-K and kindergarten.
Okay, and then obviously they got the ditch thing figured out. That's the issue with the irrigation ditch back there.
Yes, yeah, we don't encroach on that property.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no, if I could just see that overlay, that'd be great. That would answer one of my questions. And then I had a question on the timeline that you did that. Do you know about how long it would take to complete it?
About 15 to 18 months. And so something else we're doing in the planning stages is we're understanding lead times for materials is a long time. So transformers are 15 to 18 months. So that's been a lot of our strategic planning is how do we utilize the transformer we have in the meantime of waiting for other things, how can we accommodate materials and those long lead time items by starting those planning now. So we are consciously aware of that with construction, but we're pretty confident that we can get this building going for these students.
That's awesome, thanks.
I'm sure. Tiffany, thank you for being there. Thank you for this. Always enjoy your presentations. So as far as the number of students that attend now and the projections for students in future years, I assume that this easily accommodates that number of students.
Yes, so the current design is for the full capacity. So like I said, we will have, I believe it is 9 pre-K. And then our 2 grades after that. You know, part of it is the district did plan to increase 2 classrooms per grade.
where our enrollments kind of don't meet those numbers, but we anticipate with the new building that we can accommodate, and that we don't want to come back later and add a building on or add a portable, that we just went ahead and did the over adequacy to make sure that we had a full campus for that growth.
And I guess following up on the same idea, on that other wing that is not currently two-story, is that going to be built in such a way that it could accommodate a second story?
No, it isn't. We do have room, if you look to the west, where we do have that two-story building, that space has kind of been left without any utilities or items or playground areas. So if we did need to build an additional pod, that would be the area that we would do it, because it would just extend that wing out.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there, I'm sorry, are there speed bumps on that road?
I don't believe so.
Go ahead, Mr. Huron.
It's refreshing to hear that we have a target date now, January of 2024, right? So, this is the first time I heard plans have changed. I think the last plan that was addressed to us was everyone's gonna move to the blue school and they're gonna
Yes,
shut that, but
Evaluations of it, and the cost that the district would incur to get that up to speed for a short period of time, we could utilize that within the school. Everyone knows inflation has been a big part of price increases, so we want to make sure we utilize that funding as best as possible.
the reason I bring that up is because I remember, I think, November of 19, we had a bond election, and this was one of the items targeted for that. And we led the public to believe that we wouldn't address that right away. I know there's been problems that we hit COVID. We didn't see COVID coming. We didn't see none of that. And these transforms, I understand how far that out they are. But if we have any other changes, can you get, I mean, can Mrs. Dillon, Dr. Ellen, can you please update us if there's going to be changes like that? I just gave some information to the public, completely opposite of what was presented tonight. So I could call those people and tell them. But if there's any change, can you do that stuff? Thanks.
Anybody else? Tiffany, I don't think I have any questions other than, and I just want to make sure I heard you right. This will become a K-8 school?
No, 6.
K
So,
6.
yeah, it's pre-K, so it'll be a pre-K center that will house all the pre-K kids that are feedered into Valencia High School,
Okay,
and then we will have K through 6.
is it currently a 6?
Mhm.
Okay, okay, perfect. That's what I wasn't sure about. Great, thank you. Yeah, Ms. So will that meeting on April 21st be public so that parents know that you can go and?
I believe so. It is a parent night, so
Okay.
DPS has offered to participate in that, so they'll have activities for the kids, teaching them about architecture and kind of interactive with different building materials. They'll have different samples of innovative furniture for the kids to try out, and kind of their idea too is to see what the kids like, what they're drawn to, so when we do these design things, we can get that input as well.
And then I was thinking when we have a final step, they'll bring it back to us. We'll know the final design.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, thanks, Tiffany. All right, so I believe that brings us to item number 12. This is a discussion item as well, brought forward by Board Member Brian Smith, talking about a town hall. Go ahead. Mr. Town.
I just wondered for an update on when we might have one. I know it's suggested this is the way to do it, so I would think because as I stated last time we talked about town hall meeting, you just let it go and didn't do anything. So
Any board members have comments on that, or suggestions, or direction they'd like to see the board take?
I would just ask, Dr. Elder, were you planning on maybe putting some of that in your planning?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Bennett. Having parent forums is a part of the transition plan. And I'm not sure if maybe there's a way we could combine those purposes so that we have the opportunity to listen. I'm planning to have 3 dates still to be determined. But we could conceivably have board members come in pairs to those parent forums, if we could construct those in a way that would fulfill the purpose, I'd be happy to work with you on that.
And those parent forums are gonna be open for any concerns that parents would have or community would have?
Yes, I'll really ask 3 questions. What's working well? What's not working? And how can we make our education system better?
And understanding that no more than 2 board members could attend that.
So, Ms. Garcia, I just have a comment. I don't want these town hall meetings to speak to a board member is a lot different than a town hall meeting that you're talking about. It's 2 different subjects. I don't want a board member town hall meeting to hijack what it is you're trying to do. There's gonna be legitimate questions. You have a focus, and I want to maintain that, and I don't want it to turn into a board member town hall. So my opinion would be to keep those separate. It is apparently our responsibility to have a town hall, because we said that's the way we were gonna do this. She's doing it for a different reason, I believe. So my question was, are we gonna plan a town hall as a board for requests and information and concerns from the public?
I know that there has not been any conversation to exclusively pick a date, exclusively pick the time or location. It would have to be regular, of course, information needed by all board members in order to get us to that place. And of course, I believe it becomes still an opportunity that would have to be published if we're all in the same place at the same time, which is not a problem, something we could do, but getting this all together and is an easy feat as well. So does council want to add what, again, I don't know if that's anything you want to support or just leave it up to us, that's fine. Town hall meetings, and in your experience, how do boards normally do that?
My understanding of the reason the town hall meetings came about was because there was several public readings on public comment policy. That policy failed, and part of that discussion involved, well, in the alternative, could we set up town halls where members of the public could come? It's something that is outside of the current policy. It is something that the board could agree to do. I don't believe that there has been a formal vote. So it would have to be an action item that the board would have to take to, 1, create a town hall. 2, you'd have to set up some rules in terms of how the public can come in and make those comments. Is there a time limit? Is there simply in the same way that public comments are made here? Because simply because you're calling it a town hall doesn't mean that you're not sitting as a board and that all of those rules associated with public comments do not apply to you because you're calling it a town hall. It's still a board meeting. So Madam President, members of the board, I think that in the process of creating a town hall forum, there is a lot of work and planning that needs to go into it and a lot of discussion in terms of what comments are allowed or not allowed. How long does the speaker have to speak? Do they have to sign up in advance? Do they not? How many are we going to have? Is it limited to the people in this area or not? Can people speak more than, if you have more than one town hall, can they speak at the various town halls and repeat their comments over and over? All of those are discussions that need to occur at the board level that I would encourage you to have before you schedule a town hall. Otherwise, you don't have the rules in place for it yet.
Quick one for you. So at a town hall meeting, can all 5 board members be there?
It depends on how you schedule the town hall meeting. If you're scheduling it so that only 2 board members are present, you could decide to do that, then it's not an open meetings act. You do schedule it as an open forum. How you decide which 2 board members are at which town or 2 town halls are, again, something that you have to discuss in an open session discussion such as this. If all 5 of you are there, it's a meeting subject to open meetings act.
Right, and I know that the minute you hand somebody a mic, you cannot take away their right to speak, right?
That's right, free speech, whether they have something good to say or bad to say, that's their right. You can't stand in the way. Now, there are some other limits that you can put on it. For example, you could put some limits about not being able to speak about personnel items specific to any one employee
or any specific student, because that violates other laws. But yes, generally, Member Smith, once you have someone in mind, they could say something positive or they can say something negative. And as a board member, you just sit and listen and not respond.
I agree, and it's worth sitting through a bunch of criticism to get to some valid points that need to be addressed. That's what I say, so hopefully we can schedule some sort of a town hall in the near future.
David Anders?
Madam Chair, if I may ask Dr. Elder, on your page that says listen and plan for the future, could you explain a little bit of what you have in mind as far as like time to go on? What is that gonna look like? Where is it gonna be? And what?
Well, thank you for your question, Madam Chair, and board members, members of the board. The listen and plan for the future is really the opportunity to get feedback more from the internal audiences. So our educators, our staff, our central office directors, our NEA, to really hear from the people who are doing the work. The other page on increasing engagement with the public, that's more of outreach with external community organizations.
Okay. And what do you envision as board involvement of the part is going through also?
Thank you, board member Vickers. I do picture at the parent forums that I would invite 2 board members to each. Because I'm planning to have 3. That way you could be there to just be present and hear what I'm hearing from our parents. I really picture those as an open invitation, but then to have, if we have a large turnout, and I hope we do, to have facilitators at each table so that everybody gets a chance to talk around the topics of what's working well, what can we do better, and how can we improve.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know how we're going down this road, going back to her plan. Dr. Elder's plan, because she's being transparent, she's allowing the public to address her. The reason we have this issue in the town hall meetings is because we had an issue before us, a vote before us on public comment. And the words that came out during the discussion were, we just need to have our own town hall meeting. And that wasn't my idea. I voted to let the public speak at every meeting. And that's fine, we lost, I lost that vote, but let's not tie this into what her plan is. The words that came out of these board members were, we'll have a town hall so they can come address their concerns. I'm talking about the parents, students, the staff, the business leaders, come to address their concerns to us. So we need to make sure we keep those separated. I don't want to confuse this. So we need to come up with some dates and times.
So if I understand, council though, before we come up with dates and times, I think we have to come up with a vote to say that's what we want to do. And then a list of procedural rules that would be followed in that town hall. Am I correct in assuming that's what the steps would be?
Yes, Madam President, I do remember that discussion. However, a discussion does not equal board action. And in order for there to be board action, there does have to be a vote, yes or no. Do we want to have town hall meetings? You do not have to have the regulations set up in advance before you take that vote. I am just recommending that you have those regulations set up in advance before you take that vote, so everybody knows exactly what they are voting for.
Madam President,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Council, so under item 16 under new business, could we frame something the sort of that, what you're disclosing right there?
An action item to be voted on under new business for today's meeting,
For a town hall meeting,
for today or for a future meeting?
for a future meeting.
For a future meeting, you can add it under new business. I'm not entirely sure how new business gets added onto your agenda. That's something I can look at. But you can add it in for a vote in the future. It's not as an action item for today.
Okay.
Madam President, that'd be something to consider like a work session. To get all the particulars put together. And then bring it to the vote.
We could, I think all of those are good ideas, any of it would work. It's gonna be our, well, it's a community's town hall, but it's our vote that has to happen. And our procedures that have to happen, and then we can show up to this town hall. But in order for us to all agree on that, it would be a work session where we all talk about what we want to do in this town hall or not, and the rules that would be in place. So yes, we can do it in a work session. Yes, we could put it on the next agenda and just vote on it, but I would feel comfortable with my personal vote, knowing what the rules were before I voted. That's just me, but I think that that's fair. So if anybody has another way that they want to do it, that's good too. But if you want to see this on the agenda for next month, whoever's placing it on the agenda, I'd like to see a set of rules with it.
And I agree, it should be laid out as to what the town hall exactly is, and what we will allow, and what we won't allow, and if there's timeframes and everything. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I thought I had read somewhere where a town hall is different than a board meeting as far as time restraints go. Because you told them 2 minutes was up, doesn't mean anything.
It depends on how the board schedules it.
Okay.
So,
All right. And hopefully we can get them to speak at a town hall, since they can't speak it.
Okay, so any other more discussion on item 12? All right, so we're gonna move to item number 13, approval of the 2023 IDEA policy and procedural manual. I believe we have 2 items to address on, or was that approved? I'm sorry, I have consented. So we're on item 14, presentation and approval of student calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to call interim chief academic officer Alicia Hines to the mic, along with the members of our calendar committee who are presenting this evening.
Board President Garcia, members of the board and Superintendent Elder. I have the privilege tonight of speaking to you about an option for the calendar and the process for making those selections. Fortunately, I will not be doing this alone. I have a team with me to help present. Specifically, we have Catherine Campbell, who is the principal of RGE, Mr. Dustin Talley, who is a parent, Marianne Chavez, who is a teacher at RGE and also our NEA certified president, and Michelle Duran-Etling, custodian at BFE, and also the NEA classified vice president. We have some other members of our calendar committee throughout the room, so we will also introduce them as well. I'll let Catherine do that first, but the 4 individuals who will be speaking to you tonight represent the different stakeholder groups that we feel that the perspective of having those different voices at that table really brings to mind the different perspectives that we all have when it comes to our meetings. So without further ado, I will invite Ms. Campbell to introduce the members of the team. But I would like to offer thanks to our Learning Innovations directors for helping us to facilitate those meetings. And Catherine, go ahead and introduce everybody. Board President Garcia, members of the board, and Superintendent Elder, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Our first thing is to introduce our team members and roles by the members. So we have 14 total team members working on this committee. 6 of them are parents, work with the students. 3 are teachers. 4 are site administrators. 4 are other employees, custodian, counselor, educational assistant, and substitute. 5 are NEA members.
one parent who is not an employee, and 2 central office employees. Like Ms. Hines said, it is a representative of geography, role groups, and school levels. Our facilitator during this time is Dr. Alder. Myself, principal of RGE and parent of students in Los Lunas schools. We also had Dr. Robert Sims, assistant principal at Los Lunas High School. And when I call your name, will you stand up so they know who was part of our committee? Thank you, Dr. Sims. We had Monica Rivera, the principal at Tomei Elementary and a parent of students at LL Schools. We had Miss Joanne Carter, principal at Valencia Middle School. I'm standing in this. Miss Jessie Argo, teacher and parent. Shelley Alba, teacher and NEA vice president. Yes. Marianne Chavez, teacher and NEA president. Michelle Duran Etling, custodian and NEA classified vice president. Ms. Veronica Montero, counselor and NEA member. Ms. Jessica Benavides, library support specialist and NEA member. Ms. Erica Chavez, who is a substitute teacher and parent. Mr. Justin Talley, parent. Mr. William Hayes, district administrator. And Mr. Carlos Castillo, district administrator and parent. Thank you.
Good evening, President Garcia and members of the board. Dr. Elder, thanks for the opportunity to discuss with you a little bit about the process that we followed. It was interesting because Dr. Elder started the process with us, and about halfway through, she was made interim superintendent. He tried to get away from doing the calendar and put someone else with the head of the calendar committee. And I proposed that instead of leaving us, she let us propose the calendar, and in doing that, I got stuck. The other thing is, I tend to be the black sheep, I think, in the group, and they warned me not to go rogue, so I'm going to try not to go rogue this evening on any of the topic. The first thing I'd like to draw your attention to, though, is the little green arrow at the very end that says legislature. Very early in the process, we were made aware of House Bill 130 that affected the process of building this calendar. Now we'll discuss a little more later on. But having that after all of the other things we did could potentially throw a wrench in the whole process. So knowing that ahead of time, we tried to structure our calendar so that if House Bill 130 passed, we wouldn't have to go back and change anything in the last minute. And it turns out House Bill 130 did pass with some amendments to it. But the first thing we did is we looked back at what had been done before, specifically this year, what was lacking, what people liked, and then we looked ahead to see what is it that we wanted to do. And then we proposed different items to discuss in the next meeting. And I think you'll see with the calendar that nobody got what they wanted. Everybody had to give and take a little bit, but in the process, we had to meet certain constraints also that we'll discuss later on. But the process, focused us to get to this calendar. And in the end, even though nobody got what they wanted, I think we got a calendar that meets the requirements and will meet the needs of the teachers and hopefully also the students in the district. So the second meeting we had, we discussed again there was a legislative update, and then we reviewed some sample calendars. And this was actually quite difficult. I came prepared with a sample calendar and everybody loved it. And then one of the ladies in my little group said, "Mr. Talley, you're missing 10 days." So they loved the calendar, except for the fact that it didn't fit the requirements. So that was a little embarrassing. But we reviewed calendars and then we discussed other items that the the different members of the committee thought were important to both the teachers and the community. And then the following Wednesday, we finalized those options. And some of those things, you know, we came up with 2 different calendars and the committee was the community was able to vote on those. One was a more compressed calendar and one was a more extended calendar with more breaks. But some of the things, you know, teachers wanted a break in August because that first little part of August, you know, you don't get until Labor Day, there's no break until some of the teachers get tired. Well, on one of the calendars, they had to sacrifice getting the day there to be able to have a week-long Thanksgiving break. Or, you know, a lot of give and take. So in the end, you'll see that we came up with the best options that we could, given the concerns. Last week, of course, during spring break was when we had the opportunity to vote on it. And then also the proposed calendars had to go to collective bargaining as well, to get the approval of the NEA. And then tonight, we're recommending a calendar to you, Dr. Elder and members of the board. And hopefully we'll get a vote on this evening as well.
So I'm going to pop back in and apologize for my shaky voice. I had forgotten how hard it is to project with a math one, so I will start over. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, Mr. Talley mentioned the legislature and how important that was for us as we were doing these calendars to make some contingency plans and to always be considering that. And it's a good thing we did because some amendments came through after we had made decisions that we are able to look at for future consideration. But House Bill 130 includes 1,140 instructional hours. It also has some provisions for the definition of professional work hours that need to be included. I will read to you what they considered professional work hours, but elementary would include 60 hours and secondary would be 30. That was an amendment that was made March 12th. So the definition of professional work hours, which may be embedded during the course of a normal school day, means time during which a teacher participates in professional work aligned with challenging academic content and performance standards, and includes 3 specific things. So that would be parent-teacher conferences, educator training or professional development, and mentorship, coaching, and collaboration between school employees. And I'm going to re-invite Mr. Talley up here to talk about how that impacted the decisions we made. And he wanted to really speak to that from the perspective of someone who doesn't live and breathe school lingo. So I think that's important for you to talk about the parameters, the constraints, and the considerations.
So I think it's no surprise to the board or Dr. Elder or probably anybody here that I'm not a huge proponent of the all learner days, nor am I a proponent of the extended learning time. However, the new House bill that was passed requires 1,140 instructional hours. If you use the standard 6 hours a day for secondary education that we've used in the past, at the previous 1,080 hours, which was required, that comes out to 180 days. If you keep 6 hours a day, that forces you to go to 190 day schedule. I don't think there was anybody on the calendar committee that was a proponent of going to 190 days. So there were other options that we could do. Specifically, we could extend the day. And so the day, in order to keep 187 days, we have to extend the day by a few minutes for different levels of education to meet that 1,140 hours. The other thing is, I didn't know this before, but there is a negotiated number of days with the union that teachers can work. So if you have to fit all of those the professional development hours in those 191 days, you can't do it without some concessions, particularly the all learners days. You either have to extend past the 191 days, which I don't think is negotiable with the NEA at this point, or you have to do the all learner days. And I think that that is an ideal way to get the time in for the professional development and to get the total number of days of instruction without extending to 190 days. So everybody had to make some concessions in that aspect. But I didn't realize going in as just a community member that there are all these constraints. And that's not something that the administration has any control over. That's something that comes from the state legislature. And so that's something that we had to struggle with to meet those requirements. So I just want to make sure that you understand that's not the district, it's the state. And if you want that changed, that's something that you have to go petition to the state and get with your local, but with your state representatives. But those are the constraints, and that's how we came up with the calendar we have.
Madam President Garcia, members of the board, interim superintendent Ellen, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. The voting process was started by NEA being involved, which is our union. We were presented with the two options of the calendar. We did a study on it. We sent it out to our members. They had a vote on it, and we came back with only one person opposing the two calendars. So the calendar was voted by the union to go ahead and recommend it as part of the two calendars to the community. Once we got that going, we were able to get the okay to Ms. Hines and Dr. Elders. And then the voting was open from March 10th through the 17th with district personnel, school personnel, community members, and parents and guardians. Once they had that, they had the whole week of spring break up until the 17th to vote. It was communicated in several ways. They were on social media, websites, Remind, and I also sent constant reminders to our members on this. We received a total of 1,762 votes, and compared to last year, which was only 1,140. So we had a really good turnout, even though it was during spring break. And I think all those remind messages helped. Okay. Look here, but the best one ever. 59 points. Number 2. We have calendar number 2. Thank you very much.
That is what we were talking about, the going road thing. So you do have, board members, you have both copies of option 1 and option 2. But with that percentage of votes, focus on some of the features of option 2. Just to reiterate, this is the student calendar only. So there are some next steps after we hopefully get approval on this that includes some bargaining with NEA in terms of the teacher calendar. But what this does include is 187 student learning days, which is the same as this year. 9 weeks of summer vacation for our students, no school in June or July, fall break again on Indigenous Peoples Day, a full week off for Thanksgiving, 4-day weekend for Easter, 6 embedded all learner days, and finally school will end before Memorial Day. So those are the two options. This is the one that came out on top with 1,052 votes versus 710 for the other option. There are some other topics that I'm sure people will have questions about. And our job on the calendar study team is to determine the number of days on that calendar. There are a lot more conversations needed to be had about what happens during those days. We want more days for our students, but what we do during that time is a whole other topic. So more does not necessarily mean better. We'll also be working on the better part. So that includes making our teachers better, giving them more time to collaborate, and also providing more opportunities for students. So at this point, we will stand for any questions. Please direct them to Michelle, not whatever little song she played with us.
Thank you. Board members, any questions on the calendar?
Yeah, I have a question on the elementary teachers. I know it was proposed that they're giving them an extra recess for the kiddos that will be considered instructional time instead of time against them. Is that going to be included? Do you know, or that's going to be?
I actually do not know the answer to that. Does anybody else know specifically on that?
I think that's a conversation that we were gonna talk about at some of the other meetings.
I wasn't sure if you were asking if that was part of the bill or if that was something that we would be discussing.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
at this time, do you have that music going on? Go ahead. The 2023-2024 student calendar, I would like to make a motion that we accept option number 2. That's a form of motion.
So I have a motion to accept proposed calendar 2023-24, option 2 by Mr. Hidon. So Mr. Hidon, and then Mr. Bennett has seconded the motion. All right, gentlemen, any more discussion on this item?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I know this isn't an option at the moment, but how many days did you say students would have for summer off? What did you just say that?
It's 9 weeks.
90,
9 weeks.
9 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. So we keep cutting into summer for kids and families and vacations and camps and things like that. And I really hate to see that. I know there's the other side of that, that if there's a long break, kids forget stuff and then they have to catch up next year. So there's the pros and cons of that. For future years, I would certainly like to explore the possibility of extending the day so that we get the hours in there, but we still allow for a decent break in the summer. Just as an option. So specifically on option 2, which we're discussing now, I like the full week at Thanksgiving and all that, and I'm looking at between option 1 and option 2. You shifted the spring break in March to 2 weeks different, and I'm just wondering why, and could you move it back? Does it matter? It doesn't look like it affects anything else.
It looks like a time.
So there's 2 different spring break options, because one of them aligns with UNM spring break. And one of them aligns with, I believe, APS spring break. So I don't remember which one is which, but that's why there's 2 different options. And I believe that many people agree the Valencia or the UNM campus spring break might be best, because there's a lot of students that are taking cross-listed courses that they get credit for UNM and for school. And if they don't have those spring breaks in line, then they never really get a spring break. But I'm not sure. I need to go back and see which option we align with, but I know that those are the 2 options.
So is there somebody that knows that answer for sure? On option 2,
So option 2 does align with UNM Valencia spring break.
the second week of March.
Yes, and so that's why it was separated, so that they would have their spring break. And then also honoring the community and many people that have said before that they liked the Monday after Easter off their 4-day weekend. There's a lot of community members that always said, we miss our 4-day weekend, so that's why they split it up in that way for option 2.
Okay. Another question, the gray blocks that say beginning or end of the semester, those are actually an instructional day, right? Those gray blocks. So I definitely like option 2 better than option 1, because option 1, you have 2 days and then the rest off. Option 2, you at least have 3 days in that week and then the rest off, which I think you'll have better participation in that case. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
Madam President, members of the board. Who's the chairman of this committee? Who's in charge?
That's an interesting question.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Start with Dr. Elder.
Dr. Elder. Dr. Elder, I've been on numerous boards. And you always want to try to include the community. think that one of the first or second slides, I counted 30 people on this committee. 14, okay, maybe I messed it up, doesn't matter. But you have 14 people on here. A way diverse group of people. I can imagine going back and forth. And you guys brought an option to us in a timely fashion. You guys work together. That's humbling because I'm proud to say that I live in a community that can do that. I mean, we sit up here as board members and we may make right decisions or wrong decisions and we'll be criticized, whatever, doesn't matter. But this is the first time, I'm 56 years old, it's the first time I get to see a group this diverse bring an issue and work together and give and take. I mean, that humbles me. I'm so proud to say I live here now. I mean, I always am, but you guys did it. And I'm proud. You guys did good.
Any other board members discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So do you have the results broken up, not that it matters, broken up by who voted for what? For instance, if a parent voted for it or if a teacher voted for it?
We do not.
Okay.
It was a very simple vote. So all it asked was for an email address so that, you know, the same person wouldn't vote 500 times.
Yeah.
They made 500 email addresses, and then which option, and then certifying that this was their one ballot. So
Okay, yeah,
it's
that's
very
what I factored in. I just out of curiosity to see which one the parent really voted on that and the longer Easter and the full week of Thanksgiving. So, other than that, well, teachers as well.
data wise, that would be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
No, okay, finally, comment that I wanted to make is that, and I think to clarify for the record, number one, the bill that passed in the legislature, we're meeting it with option 2. All right, and then my next question would be, in the research that I've done, we had to make very little changes to our calendar compared to what many school districts are having to do, that I don't even know that many of them could get to a final vote a week after the legislature closes. I don't even think it's been a week since the legislature closes. So again, I just am very proud of our district. I'm very proud of this committee and what the work was, and I'm sure to be a fly on the wall. It was very interesting to see how some of that give and take happened. But again, I think this was a huge strike for our district, and it just goes to show, I think under Dr. Elder and the committee from last year, we were proactive in making sure that no matter what the legislature did, we were on top of it. So good job, guys. Thank you. If there's no other comments, we do have a first and a second to approve option number 2 for the student calendar year 2023-2024. With no other discussions, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Guidon, how do you vote?
A very proud yes. Thank you.
Mr. Bennett, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So student calendar for 2023 has been approved and accepted under option 2. Thank you.
Yes.
At this time, I believe we're under item number 16 for new business. This is where a board member would like to request topics for the upcoming board work sessions. To go ahead and give the board and the person kind of give the work. Go ahead. Let's start with Mr. Yvonne. Anything you want on the next agenda?
Let's see if somebody wants to bring up the town hall meeting.
Right, well then maybe instead of putting anybody on the spot, does anybody want to give me some suggestions?
I would suggest we set a date maybe for a work session for Christian Cole.
On public, on town hall? So if I understand it correctly, Mr. Grant, you're wanting the board to cut away some time for a work session and talk about the topic. So wouldn't necessarily be on the calendar, it's just us organizing the meeting. Understanding you say?
Plus we can legally make sure.
And so that's something that doesn't necessarily go on the calendar, gentlemen, but it means you gotta look at your calendar and tell me when we give the time for a work session. Any other suggestion for that meeting? Again?
Like to acknowledge Lisa, high school cheer.
So I believe Dr. Elder, if you can do a recognition for Valencia cheer for their work. Any other suggestions for the next meeting? This time? No? Okay. With that being said, I believe we're on item number 17. I'll announce the following meetings. On March the 28th, there will be a policy committee and a potential special meeting in the Central Boardroom at 3 o'clock. Okay, so gentlemen, if you look at your agenda for the meeting, we have a little heads up. On our consent agenda, there should have been, item number C. If you notice on the paperwork in front of you, it stops at 15B, whatever number that is. So item number C, approval of purchase of Samsung equipment was not consented. So we do need to have a vote on that, and if we need a presentation on that, I would ask, perhaps, Sandy to come forward and give us a little bit of information on that, unless the board wants to just vote right now to consent to it. It wasn't done. Yes.
I'll move the consent item C.
So I have a motion to consent to item C of the agenda, which I want to do that again. Okay. So, Mr. Young has motion for approval of purchase to the Samson equipment for Los Lunas High School weight room. Out of Fund 31,200, I believe. Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Hidon seconded, Mr. Hidon made the motion, Mr. Vickers has seconded. Gentlemen, any discussion on that item? All right, not hearing any discussion on that item, Mr. Hidon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? And I also vote yes, so the approval of that purchase is granted. Sorry. Now we'll jump back to the announcement of meetings. Item number 17 on the agenda. On March the 28th is a policy committee meeting at 3 o'clock here in the Central Boardroom. On March the 31st, there through April the 3rd, there's the National Board Association Annual Conference in Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. And there will be a quorum in attendance of that conference. On April 11th, there will be a finance committee meeting here in the Central Boardroom at 3 p.m. On April the 12th, there's also New Mexico School Boards Association Region 4 spring meeting. Los Lunas Schools is hosting that for the Region 4. So it'll be here in Los Lunas. A quorum will be in attendance on April the 12th. On April 18th is our next regular board meeting at the Central Boardroom here at 6 o'clock p.m. This leads us to adjournment of the meeting. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, there may be some documents board members you need to sign, so please check with staff if there's any signatures needed before you leave. And at this time, I'll stand for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Smith has made the motion. Mr. Bennett has seconded that motion. Any discussion on adjourning? I'll call for the vote. Mr. Hidon?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And I vote yes. is adjourned. It is now 8:45.
Tell me about this. Bye.